Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. This is the 7th talk in the series. According to the Satipatthana Sutta, anyone who practices properly for 7 days will be fully enlightened. We've already had 7 days of this meditation retreat. And many which means if you're not enlightened yet, you haven't been practicing properly. The difference between how so what does it mean to practice properly? Really easy. Basically, when you have a 3-month retreat, it's much more gentle. The peace and tranquility, the theory, and just ease yourself into the retreat period. Practice is just hard, and that's precisely what I hope each one of you have done. You have been dealing with little bits of business, tendencies which have been ingrained in us for many lifetimes. But little by little, as you go further into the retreats, those problems, difficulties tend to lessen. And you tend to get into a beautiful routine where you have lots of free time. Many of you already have that free time. Just the amount of it's wonderful to have the opportunities from time to time where you have just most of the day for yourself. Because it hasn't come to you However, yet, when you do have such going to happen. What I think is idyllic situations and circumstances, even though the externals can be just so clear of hindrances and obstacles, still as you'll all find out, the biggest hindrance and obstacle is that which the mind presents to you. Whether it's the boredom or the restlessness, the sleepiness, and each one of those reflections, or the frustration which happens when you have such a long time to meditate. So we remember it's important to give yourself that time to meditate, because remember you just have experiences of life so far, have that solitude and that for this time to face the mind, you'll never understand that those obstacles exist in the first place. After it recedes from know that sometimes you get moments can be quite romantic to come off and go off and be a hermit, be by yourself and have all the free time in the world. Promise. And this is about as close as you can get in our world. A commodity sold in a shop. In this monastery, where you have so much support, where the huts are just well positioned, well built, comfortable, everything is just so well supplied in this monastery. Carries along with it. So externally, and so you can't have many of us are here anywhere in the world as far as places the world outside is not satisfying. And even all of the teachings, if you don't like this teaching, so many tapes and CDs and the library more wisdom than there's enough teachings there. All one really needs to do is research for this peace, this happiness. To employ sometimes in our meditation can get so frustrating, make use of the free time look in a wise and skillful monastic way. Life, worldly life. What's the difference? And one of the meditation techniques which I've been encouraging in talks overseas, some inkling also settle myself down, in a facade is to spend a little bit more time on the mindfulness of the body. There is an alternative. Sometimes, especially if I'm busy, or if you just had a birthday and it's just so disturbing, basically, having all these people around, sort of keep telling you this and telling you that, crack as much as you can. So whenever you get because that's all there is. Disturbed, otherwise you just have to go sometimes it's hard to settle down so quickly. One of the ways I've been using to settle down, encouraging each one of you to do, is the mindfulness of the body technique, where instead of just going straight to present moment awareness or silence or straight to the breath or straight to meta meditation, whatever other types of meditation you do, is to sit down and just become aware of the sensations and feelings in your body. That sometimes you don't know whether to call that body meditation or Vedanusati, of the feelings, because it's the physical feelings in the body, of the fifth sense of touch. But it's those physical feelings you get to know what your body is like and where it is and what's happening in your body. And I find it very, very useful because perhaps I haven't emphasized that, but I do it quite regularly. Always have done it quite regularly, especially in times of tiredness or sickness. Because by focusing on those physical feelings, because the whole of the time of giving ease is a way of giving ease to those physical feelings, of those tiredness. And you say, or sometimes going without sleep because you've been the wise meditator to focus on the feelings and just sort of settle them down to overcome. It's not that hard to settle feelings down. It's by focusing on them. And what I've been calling in the talks in the last 6 months, using caring attention. caring
And the
attention
cause
is
and
not just
effect
being mindful, but having a bit of gentleness and compassion as you look on those feelings. That's obviously metaphorical. You're not looking with your eyes.
In the suttas,
you're just being mindful with your mind.
Fuels is the
but
five
not just knowing these things, but being
Buddha
kind and gentle to
five
them.
hindrances which
And the kindness and gentleness, which is along with the mindfulness, tends not only to make it easy to engage with the object, but also it tends to calm and tranquilize the object. So in other words, if you haven't got aches in the knees, or you've got some sort of tension in the body, you find by that type of mindfulness, plus a little bit of compassion, is easy enough to maintain your attention there.
And for most people, they try
and of course, I find that very useful whenever you're doing things like walking meditation. If you're walking meditation for an hour or so, after a while, when my body starts to sort of, get a bit hot, and maybe when you sit down, it's very little bit tired and achy. But that actually gives you a wonderful start to your meditation. You can focus on those feelings and sensations in the body after walking meditation. That stops the mind from drifting off somewhere else.
Putting this person down, that person
because as well as calming the body down from an active type of meditation called walking meditation to the inactive sitting, sometimes that's a beautiful way of making that transition without allowing the mind to go wander off into all the other duties and things which you should be doing, or dreams, plans, or fantasies, which sometimes you've got nothing to do, but you do it anyway.
In this little book I've got next to
so it's a beautiful way of
you don't need to try and keep up with the Joneses
and not losing the mindfulness.
Just drag them down to your level.
Because after walking meditation, those physical feelings, with me anyway, are very prominent. They're very, if you like, loud and very
delusion.
Easy to focus on. And of course,
they
make a wonderful way
of suffering going round.
Taking the mindfulness from the walking into the sitting. And it's also nice if you have like a sore throat or an ache or a pain to focus on those feelings and just with caring attention keep settles down.
Going.
And maybe that's one way of increasing your own bodily health while you're here.
Which is why that sometimes we have to
I'm
find
a great believer,
maybe
because of experience, by learning how to focus on sort of painful or sick feelings in the body and give it less caring attention. The aches or the pains or the sicknesses, in me anyway, tend to lessen.
You can look at just
they
how
seem
much
to respond,
life
not just to being aware of them, but to the kindness which I imbue in them. I know that sometimes we do chanting for people, and sometimes it works. It does seem to work anyway. This is why we've just done all this chanting and read out this list of names.
Because we meditate.
Of course, it only really happens. It only really sort of works if, when you're doing that chanting, you focus on some of those names and you spread loving kindness and metta towards them. And if that actually works when you chant on other people, imagine what that type of metta can do to yourself. Now you're far closer to yourself, obviously. So by just spreading this caring attention to parts of your body, gee, that has a huge effect on more
happiness in their
physically
world.
And sometimes, especially when you get deep meditation, your mind is very, very powerful. A lot of people get you can see alcohol and drugs. And some deep meditation, especially when you sit for many, many hours and you get disturbed by like an ache in the knee or something, because after a few hours my knees do start to get things like heroin. And sometimes you just focus on there. Just with kindness, you zap the feelings and they disappear straight away because your mind is so strong. At the beginning. I say zap because basically that's the only way you can describe it. Heroin, put your attention down there with sexual fantasies. And it just works almost
or whatever
immediately.
Else you get into in your private
and that's
moments.
Sort of with intense meditation, but even with
just borrowing
and not so deep meditation, still the mind has enough power, or rather the mindfulness
has to be
together with kindness. This is why I call it caring.
It's actually understanding that
not just mindfulness, but add that metta, that compassion with it.
And you have
that
to
seems to work really well. So during this retreat period, if any of you have sicknesses
is a right effort,
or aches or pains, which many of you have, we're all a year older than last retreat,
is having the wisdom to see the way your mind is going.
Some people feel that maybe 2 or 3 years older. Sometimes that's not true. But that's how it feels.
Not investing
if you are getting old and getting sick and getting close to your death,
not further.
That's sometimes what it feels like.
I know
it's
that
sometimes quite useful to have this little technique so you know how to deal
meditation retreats with
the aches and pains.
They say, well, I can't get my mind quiet, just thoughts come into my mind
superficially, but actually tends
It's
to
true that the
do some
thought might
healing.
come into the mind by itself.
And by doing that,
conditioning, cause and effect.
you're not only
But it
creating a
continues, it
healthier
finds
body,
a foothold in
but
your
you're
mind
also
because you
learning
favour it.
how to develop more of
Because
this
you allow
mindfulness together
Because
with
you say,
caring.
come in, sit down, and
And
you
that
entertain
caring
it.
mindfulness will be of great benefit
The
to
same
you
way a
later on
person
when you
will come
start to
into
sit and do things like
your
watching your
house.
breath.
And they'll
Remember,
stay there
just
as
by
long as you
watching the
entertain it.
feelings in the body and caring
As a
about them,
senior monk, when
now
I
you're
receive
actually
guests after the
practicing
meal,
what I call this present moment awareness.
become
and
skilled
silence,
in knowing
simply
how
because
to get rid of them
the
when
only
I'm tired.
feelings you can really know for sure
that's
are the
why you
ones
can
which are
actually
here
see
right now.
Those of you who
It's a
Upadana
natural present moment
very, very,
awareness
very
when you're
rare.
watching these
So I
sensations
stay
in the
down
body.
there longer than say 12:30.
And also because you
sometimes 10
can't
past
say
or
too much
5
about
past, or
them,
even today,
it's
12
very
o'clock,
hard
I'm
to
out of
write
there.
an essay on the
And
feelings
how
in
do you
the body.
do that? And why is it that some
When I
other
was
monks,
a
sometimes
trainee
they're there
school
to 1
teacher, you always
o'clock or
do
1:30?
the trainee where you've got other teachers, you
They
look and
don't
see
know
how
how to
they do
dismiss
things, and then
people.
they let you teach their
And you
classes.
don't pay them interest.
There's
and
one
you
very
don't get involved,
eccentric
and you don't
school
get sucked
teacher in the
there.
north of England where I did my teaching
They
practice,
soon know it.
whose
and
method
they
of
just depart.
punishment if a child did
And that's the
anything wrong was
same
to
way
get them to
you
write
deal
an essay
with
and
the
give them the most
thoughts and
ridiculous
fantasies
subjects to write
and
about.
mind
His
states
favourite
which come up
subject
into your mind.
was you had to write a 2-page essay
don't
on,
entertain
on
them.
the nature of
Do
the
you have
inside of a
this
ping
mind
pong
of
ball.
dismissal?
Yeah, you can come
Which
up.
was
Was
a
very
thank you
difficult
very
to
much
write
for
anything
coming. Very
about
good.
something
Now
so
If
nothing.
you can
What
do
is
that
in
to
on the
the
inside
thoughts,
of a
the
ping pong ball?
fantasies, the mind
It's
states
white
which
and it's
arise
round.
in your
and
mind.
that's about it. We had to write
You
2
too
pages.
will have more time for peace.
But that was like an example
like
of
me.
something which you can't say too
dismiss the lay
much
community
about.
when they come after the meal. You can be kind to
And
them.
I use that example
You
because
can be
when you look at the feelings in the body, they're just
civil,
about maybe a little bit more
dismiss.
interesting than the inside of a ping
In the
pong
same
ball,
way
but not much more interesting.
that when thoughts come in your
In
mind,
other words, there's
you'll be
not
kind
much
to
you
them,
can describe about them.
civil,
Words
and
just don't
dismiss
go
them.
there.
so you can have much more time of silence.
And we haven't got the language
Much
to
more
describe
time
these
of
things
freedom.
sometimes. Sometimes a feeling it
the
hurts, or it's
Upadana,
pain,
which is
it
the
aches.
fuel which stops
There's
you
nothing much
having the
else you can say
freedom.
about it.
The fuel
It's
of
because that the
being
feelings in
inside
the
a
body
prison, the fuel
do
of
not
the fetters,
engender
is you just get involved in these
conversations
things.
and
And
concepts.
this is one of the key
and
words which
language.
I've been using over the
They
last
are
year
a
with my
great
meditation.
method
Instead of using like
of
detachment,
calming the thinking
which
mind down. You're getting in
was a bit
contact
too
with
negative
feelings rather
for
than
my
the
mind
thinking.
anyway. I just
And
got
so it does become a
disengagement.
very useful
And the word
bridge,
engagement
between
has
the
all this
outside
wonderful
world and the world
negative
of
meanings
real
of being
present moment
engaged
awareness
to another
and silence
person and getting married
with
to
the
them.
breath. So by
gears
sitting down and
engaging
staying
and
with your
grinding
feelings for a few
together.
minutes,
It
when you
means
start
that
your
there's two
meditation,
things
I
which
found
come
that very, very
together
useful and
when they really
a very
shouldn't
good
be.
instruction to other
And
people
disengaging
to get in
is
contact
understands
with
that you
their bodies.
have got into these
And to get in
things.
contact
you have
with the
engaged
present
these
moment.
things, but you know
And to
how
get a
to
little bit of
disengage.
silence in the mind.
You
so
know
you're
how
not
to
thinking or
dismiss.
fantasizing or
You
dreaming.
know how to separate.
And of course, I
You
don't
know how
really
to
do that
stop
very much, but
Upadana.
some traditions, they do a huge
And
amount
this is
of
very
meditation
important
on
to
the
be able
body,
to know
sweeping
the
it up
fuel
and sweeping it down.
and know how to turn it off.
And I found that also very useful to teach
know what
people who are very restless.
fuels
That was one of the
thinking?
meditations
To know
I
what
introduced
fuels
at the retreat
moods?
in Kaulak, north of Phuket.
Sometimes that
No
no matter who you are in this monastery, sometimes you get into
these
negative
were
moods.
executives from Singapore.
Sometimes you just
busy
wake up on the
people,
wrong side of your mat
and
in the
they
morning.
came there and they were so
don't have
restless.
beds,
So
so you
giving
can't
them
wake up
something
on the
to
wrong
do
side of
like
the bed.
that
At least I
really
don't.
calm their restless
You
mind
wake up on the
down.
wrong side of the bed
go
in the
from the
morning, or
toes
something
all the way up
happens
to
and
the
you're in a
head,
grumpy
slowly,
mood. That's nature,
med-
because you
just
can
noticing
see
the feelings
where it
as they
comes
went.
from. It could be
Gave
that
them
you've
something
got sick,
to
or
do.
you've
It
got
was an active type
lots
of
of
meditation,
burdens in your
but it was focused and it was
to-
in the
to deal
moment,
with.
and there's not much thinking.
But you know
could
the
go
fuel
on.
source.
So by the end
you know
of
how
the
to cut it off.
sweeping, they were actually
There's other
quite
times
calm,
you're just very
surprisingly
ebullient.
so.
You're
And
just
of course,
having a
those who
wonderful
knew how to
time, and
do
you're
the
just
further
full of fun,
meditations carried on
and
from
jumping
there.
up and down. But you
And
know how to
I was
cut that
so
off as
pleased
well. You know
that
the
some
fuel
people got
source
some
for your
nice
moods.
meditation for the first time.
That's why one
It's
of
always
the
a great joy as a
strongest
teacher
or
when
most
people start to
repetitive
understand what
pieces of
meditation is
advice
like
of
for the
Ajahn
first time.
Chah
It's so easy,
when we were
and I
young
got so
monks was
focused,
don't
couldn't hear
follow your
anything, I was
moods,
just
don't
really
get
inside
lost in
myself.
them.
It's so nice.
You
Some
know
of the
they're
people
just
who get
moods,
these
they're
are
not
just
yours.
some of the ones you least expect, but think, wow,
That
wonderful,
just
great.
come and go, just like the
So it all
clouds in the
started
sky.
because they started to do
huge,
more body meditation.
but fast.
Seeing the results of that, I wanted to encourage it
so
here
know
as
your
well.
moods. But especially
use that as another
them.
Technique. Don't just go and sit
What
down
happens
there and
usually
just,
if someone is in a really grumpy, negative mood?
Or just go and sit there and
what fuels them is more negative
start
thoughts.
Thinking about all sorts of stuff.
I don't want to do this.
So
why should I do
meditation?
This isn't
it's
right.
Not
this is not the real way.
It's not going into thinking.
This is.
That's
if anyone you ever
thinks
like that, one of these days we're going to start a hermitage and you can try and run a monastery.
But like aware of the feelings in the body.
And it's just a difficult
really,
thing
should
to run.
actually come under Vedanusati.
It's a difficult thing to give talks.
It's the body as well.
It's
so
a difficult
who cares
thing
what
to
it's actually called and where it's classified.
Give people instructions.
And I think
whatever it is, it's always a difficult thing.
And what that means is you get another
more
beautiful technique of meditation
by
to use during your long day. And when
whenever
you
you're
have
experiencing,
different ways of meditating during the long day, you tend not to get bored.
You're aware of it.
Especially the beginning of a
retreat,
because if you can start to develop the present moment awareness and silence at the beginning, using
you have to be
like
careful.
Meditation on the body.
Otherwise,
after
people who add
negativity
to negativity,
become naturally
that's what they call in Buddhism double dukkha.
You've
got pain in the stomach.
It's just
you're not very peaceful, and you get negative thoughts, and it becomes dukkha upon dukkha. And sometimes people get into terrible negative states, even depression.
The more you do that naturally.
Simply because they haven't been watching the fuel of their mind. They've allowed this negative, infected fuel just to flow
again and again and again.
Flow and flow until it swamps and floods the mind with this terrible blackness.
The court
and makes you a very terrible person to live with.
Keep repeating the same action just innumerable times.
That's what's called depression.
And because they keep repeating the same action over and over and over and over and over and over again, it becomes
just these negative thoughts. You can just stop them. You can just dismiss them.
Developing this present moment awareness
some crazy guy coming into the monastery.
It does become habitual. This is what we mean by training.
On Tuesdays. Please come on Thursday.
We train ourselves
when I'm on
these
retreat.
ways
And Ajahn
to actually to be more in the moment.
Whatever
during this retreat period.
Whatever it is, you can find some way.
And after a while, it bites.
That's only there's no crazy person today, you're saying.
More in the moment. We're naturally more silent.
Whatever it is, you can find ways of dismissing people and getting rid of people.
The most important thing
find ways of getting rid of these negative thoughts.
You start to get happy.
And even these super positive thoughts. Of the two, the super positive thoughts that lives, it gives you
to get off on meditation.
They fuel a bit of happiness.
And I don't know how many times this is one of the most important experiences in meditation.
But you have to be careful about whether it's super positive thoughts about the right things.
Because
if it's fuel about karma loka,
that keeps you from
about
going
crazy
that
thoughts,
keeps you from going bored and out of your skull.
When's the next birthday coming up so I can have toast?
Gee, there's another 2.5 months and a few more days left
when
of this retreat.
There's how many more days of the rains to go so I can
and of course that
go and visit my family and watch some video games or whatever.
When happiness starts to come, say, wow.
Remember sort of the sensuous thoughts.
2.5 months of this. Bliss.
Contemplate what happens.
That's what happens.
When you have karma vitaka.
So again, to be able to get
really
that
slowing the process of
you
liberation.
have to not just use your willpower.
You should have enough knowledge or faith to know exactly what the Buddha was teaching.
Aspirations and expectations.
Jhanas. There is such a thing as freedom from the sensory world. There is such a thing as stream winning and once returning, non-returning enlightenment. Those are things that exist.
So by doing body awareness, and especially
if you want them, this is what you have to do.
Body,
sure, it's tough sometimes. If you want to get a degree, you have to work hard for many years. If you leave this monastery and just want to survive, it's tough. Just getting a job and getting by and living in a little house before you can actually get up and get a bigger house or get a car or something. It's just not easy.
So by developing this caring part,
so I don't think this monastery is going to be easy.
Getting beyond,
hang out here and just think you're going to get somewhere.
Avoiding
if you just hang out and hang out and hang out, after a while the negative states of the mind will increase.
That is what really creates a lot of problems for
you find you can't
your
stay.
meditation practice.
It's not that you get
so
negative
out, that from the negativity we get
the Buddha
bored.
said, if it's a
from the
body,
negativity we start this negative
the ocean
thoughts
throws it up
arguments
on the shore.
And I can't do this. This is hopeless.
It's just the nature
the whole
of
teaching is hopeless. The whole religion is
so
hopeless.
It takes
life is
some
hopeless.
work.
All just starting
it's not the
from
work
the
of willpower, it's always the work of wisdom power. Investigate. Use your mindfulness to understand the processes of your mind. The gentle mind.
In the same way you look at these feelings in the body, you just sort of massage them.
But even better,
in the same way that when you have any problems, even emotional problems or mental problems with the meditation, you can massage those problems rather than getting into them and making a huge, big negative problem out of these things.
Looking for pleasure in the sensory world.
So the caring is important, but the attention is also important.
It never gives it the supervisor.
You see what you're doing, you see what you're up to, you understand the way the mind is moving. Because so often without that awareness and that mindfulness, you just don't know what the mind is doing. You can meditate for half an hour.
Does lead to
what you've been doing for half an hour. You haven't really been watching. You've just been wandering this way, wandering that way, dreaming, fantasizing, falling asleep.
The more stillness one feels.
Complete waste of time.
And here one understands.
Be careful,
what one
just
is
because you sit for 2 hours or 3 hours.
While one is disengaging, one is literally
that's unmindful meditation. In other words, you don't know what's going on. The mind's drifting all over the place. It's not very useful.
You've all meditated
better to have half an hour really on the ball meditation where you really are paying attention.
When those peaceful moments occur,
even if you're doing it wrong, at least you know you're doing it.
Those are great sources of wisdom. You don't need to have jhanas
being sort of dull
to get a degree of insight.
So by developing the awareness at the beginning with the feelings in the body,
so we're talking about
that part of meditation, that particular skill and strength of mind is being encouraged.
Positive states.
So by the time you let go of the feelings in the body,
fuel at all because
the mindfulness is being encouraged and generated. It's sharp. So when you're watching, say, the present moment, or watching the silence, or you decide to watch the breath straight away, the mindfulness is there for you. There's a cause. So it can watch the breath, and if it starts to move away from the breath, you know it's started to move away, so you can bring it back again. This is what the mindfulness, which we call the gatekeeper.
You found that more times
that gatekeeper is something which is there, is watching for the enemies,
and I don't mean just
allows what is supposed to come in to the building. Another old simile I gave, the gatekeeper to the house is being told exactly who's allowed to go in and who the enemies are.
When I sort of seclude or disengage
if that gatekeeper is half asleep, then all the instructions in the world, who the gatekeeper should allow into the building, who they should keep out, who are the friends, who are the enemies. If he's half asleep, then all the instructions in the world won't work. You've got to be an alert gatekeeper. But also, if you're an alert gatekeeper, but you haven't got the instructions again, then it's not going to work. You're fully aware, you see the robbers going in, you see the robbers going out. Obviously, that's not a good gatekeeper. The gatekeeper has to be fully aware and alert, and also know the instructions.
Because you learn how to disengage from things.
And this is what we develop
one way of learning how to disengage.
Mindfulness on the body.
Reflecting when we chant a sutta,
mindfulness gets very strong.
Sutta, the fire
and aware.
Saying all these things are on fire.
It's like this being just overlooking what you're up to.
It's just the content of those 6 senses.
Your mindfulness.
And anything felt from those 6 senses.
You can see which way you're going.
Happiness,
and if you find that the care is not there, or you're just drifting off, you can take remedial action.
Fire with greed, hatred, and delusion.
What you're having here is just the power, we call the indriya, the sati of mindfulness.
The senses.
It's important to build that up.
Nibbida leads to this disengagement.
Sometimes that one is tired and one does fall asleep. So one hasn't slept very much, or you've eaten too much, or you've been very busy, or sometimes your body goes through its things.
Kitchen.
And that's not just women, men as well. You just go through your high energy stages and your low energy stages. It can be sicknesses, infections, who knows?
Disengage.
But you know that sometimes you're just tired, and that's it.
Experience the peace.
And if it's not the time to sleep, at least you just sit there and make peace with your tiredness.
So much sense,
okay, you're not all that mindful. But please don't fight it when you know it's sort of
Upadana,
it's just physical.
Source.
And if it really is just physical, you just sit there. You're not fighting because you're not wasting your energy in negativity.
Because the biggest source
you're opening the door of your heart. You're being kind to your tiredness. The tiredness usually doesn't last that long.
The more you will engage.
But some of the tiredness is just laziness.
The fuel
and I think that many of you have been here long enough. And you know your practice well enough to know the difference when you're lazy and when you really are genuinely tired.
It builds it up. That's what makes
it. If it's really laziness, it just means you're not really developing the mindfulness. You're just allowing out of probably negativity, just to go off into this escape. What you think is an escape from real life, the dullness of the mind.
The illusion of a self.
But for those of you who have got some wisdom, you know it's not a really nice escape. Dullness is not a very pleasant state.
Playing
it's
around
much better
in the realm
to
of the five senses.
Develop a bit more of mindfulness
the illusion
by doing things like washing the body. And when that mindfulness is strong enough, you feel so much better.
Disengage.
And you can watch the present moment. You can sort of watch the silence. You can watch the breath. You find you can meditate. And that obviously increases your self-esteem. You're much happier in this monastery. Because you become a meditator and you're happy that, I'm a monk, but I'm also a meditator. I can do it.
Yourself has
less
meaning.
That's so important, especially for the people who start off here, the young monks, to know that, you can meditate.
Describe it.
And you can do it.
There's things to make it a solid
entity. Once you realise you can, that gives you the courage, the encouragement,
the lines,
the motivation to take it deeper.
You're vanishing.
Really, this meditation, the worst part of it, the difficult part, is just the first part of it. Getting to things like full awareness of the breath or the beautiful breath.
That's the main reason why people find it hard to meditate. Why they find it hard to walk the
Once you get to that stage, full awareness of the breath or the beautiful breath, then you're off. You don't have to have a teacher to sort of keep teaching you. Well, sometimes you do, just to give you the precise instructions of what to do and how to take it deeper, because you're interested in it. You want to meditate. You're fascinated by the way that meditation works. And it becomes like a hobby which you just can't spend enough time with.
Ways of doing things.
Because you're getting fun out of it. It's interesting. But the first part of the meditation, that's the hard part, because that's dull, it's uninteresting. Sometimes it's a bit of hard work, and sometimes you get frustrated. That's the difficult part. Once you get to this pivot point of meditation, beautiful breath, or just full awareness of the breath, then you're away.
Why do you want to be different?
So that you make that your goal at the beginning of the meditation, to develop to that stage, and all the rest is like downhill. And have confidence that you can do it.
To be different than everybody
all these teachings are there to help you. But the teaching of mindfulness is very important to begin with. You develop that mindfulness, this overseer.
Sometimes,
and it's not just when you're meditating or when you're walking. Sometimes you can develop that overseer throughout your day. When you're even eating your food, someone actually watching you eat. That's your mindfulness.
It's a waste of time.
So you're not thinking or not talking, especially those of you who take your food back to your huts.
There's a reason for that.
Be careful to eat mindfully.
To let go of the individuality. Say that one spoon at a time. Means you're letting go of the sense of self.
Or if you eat with your hands, just one handful at a time. So you don't sort of have
to be able to die that way, you're cutting off the main source of fuel.
Another one heaped up, thinking what you're going to have
samsara,
mouthful.
Which is why that
one at a time.
When you have
so
something
keep a bit
like
of mindfulness
the Adita Pariyaya Sutta, the
or
fire
you go into the toilet, don't take a book on the toilet
Sutta, or non-self, which we chanted last week, or even the Dhammacakka Pawatana Sutta.
And when you actually do things
actually
like
not the
that,
Dhammacakka Pawatana Sutta. They say those other two suttas that those monks all were enlightened.
Which makes it much easier when you sit down on a cushion, on a stool or in a chair to have that mindfulness when these things like the body and eventually
freed
the breath.
From the outflowings because
of building up
the
techniques which allow meditation to happen.
Same word really.
And little by little, as you build up those, I call it the muscles of the mind,
which gave rise to a sense of self, which gave
mindfulness and awareness,
to the continuation of the
meditation becomes far more easy.
Cut off.
And when it comes more easy, you find you can actually sit there, you can calm the mind down. The calm mind is such a beautiful, wonderful thing to have.
Anything which comes from those
you know the opposite, when the mind is just full of thoughts and it's wandering around
like a fire.
Sooner or later we'll get into
feeling arising from those senses,
even
the bliss of jhana,
thinking
which is like a fire,
which is always positive.
There's nothing left.
The thinking mind always tends to degenerate into negativity and fault finding.
No gas, no
just
fuel.
Just like some of the conversations we used to have on the tea time. You know what happens? We start talking about high things, and sooner or later,
sense of a self,
a group of blokes together.
There's
we always end up talking about stupid, negative things.
To get reborn.
It's just like the degeneration of speech, and the same thing happens with the degeneration of thinking.
Is destroyed. Kina jati.
It always seems actually to go into more fault finding and negativity. So be careful of
the
that.
seed has been
so the
destroyed.
Quieter you can become,
Once
the
that
more
seed
one
of the delusion of self
have
is gone,
happiness in
then
this
Chanda,
monastery.
the desire which comes from the self,
so
is
the
destroyed.
whole goal.
See, this is just what the sense of self
inclination
does.
should always be like calming
Its
things
nature
down,
is to want, to desire, to move.
With mindfulness and compassion.
That's
and
why you move.
Things,
that's why the
really
mind moves. The stronger the sense of self,
kindness,
the stronger your
compassion
identity,
trying to sort
who
of
you think
smooth
you are,
over the problems.
the more the mind will
to
be
soothe
agitated.
the hurt, to ease the disturbance out of
self
kindness.
It's the sense of self which has
that
to
degree
disagree.
Of kindness is implicit in
agreeing.
kindness, and it
doesn't
carries the
exist.
role of samatha,
In disagreeing,
of
in
contradicting,
contradicting,
pacifying things.
in fighting against.
It's the anger
Then
which
has
tends
an
to have the
existence.
role of inciting and exciting and
it's just one
and agitating
of a crowd.
people.
It merges,
So
it
you
melts,
can understand
it
that when you have the
disappears.
compassion, kindness
fades.
along with the mindfulness, it does
So you
calm
can understand
things down.
where all the argument comes
Especially
from.
it calms your body
You can understand
down,
where all
which
the
is
movement
why
comes
that caring attention on
from
your
this
body
Upadana,
tranquilizes the body,
feeding
so the
into a
aches and
sense of
pains
a
and
self,
sometimes
a
the
me,
restlessness
and the self
which
feeding
is in
back
the muscles
with
and
more
bones of your
Upadana.
body tend to disappear.
Upadana,
But
just
also,
feeding a
when you turn it
thinking
onto
mind,
your
a planning
it's
mind,
caring attention,
which just
tends
wants to do
soothe
things.
and calm the mind.
That's why
all the difficulties and
the
problems
types of Upadana
and
which we
the
have,
which you
calm
may have in your
Upadana,
mind, with caring
that
attention,
just feeds
saying,
off the
never
five
mind,
senses.
It'll be all right. Don't have to worry about these things. You'll do it okay.
That's why
It's only
people
2.5
love to just
months.
to play
It
in the
soon
world.
goes, whatever it is.
Love to go places.
You tend to sort of
love
calm
to do
everything
things.
down.
Love to
And in
see
that
movies.
calmness, you can
love
get
to
the
experience
freedom.
sex.
The freedom from the
experience
tyranny
one type
of
of sex,
thought,
more
the
types of
freedom
sex.
from the
Strange
pain
sex,
of
weird sex,
negativity.
anything.
Negativity
Remember
is such an
a story
awful
which
place
I read
to live.
many years
And
ago.
you
I
have
think
the
it was
option
before I
in this,
became a monk.
Retreat.
I was reading
you
in
can
the
turn the
story
mind,
of
train
the partition
mind
of
away from this
India
negative
after the
fault-finding,
British left.
angry,
And in part of the story
miserable,
they talked about
upset, depressed mind,
Maharaja of
something which is
Kashmir
more peaceful
at
and
the
calm,
time when the British were
which
still
also
in power.
has more energy.
And the Maharaja of
When
Kashmir
you start to do this with caring attention,
had, when he
to
was
the
only
present
14
moment,
years
you
of
care
age,
for this moment.
on his birthday, his
Because you
father
care for the
gave
moment,
him
the moment is not
a
as
harem
bad.
for his
When
birthday.
you smile at someone, they smile back.
14 years,
when you
you're
care
old
for
enough
them,
now.
they usually care back.
So he supplied him with the rooms and a few
So if
girls,
you care for
and he
this
could actually
moment,
make,
it becomes a
pick
much
up some more
nicer
girls
moment
as
to
he went
care
on.
for.
And so
That's
by the
what
time
you
he was
imbue
like 18,
with your attention,
he was just so satiated
what you
with
see in that
ordinary
object.
sex.
So you've got
He started
negativity.
getting into weird
Anything
sex.
which you look at is just
And
awful,
he became a
negative,
scandalous
so hard to stay with this
Maharaja of
moment because
Kashmir.
it's not nice.
With a very
The reason it's not
straight-laced
nice
British
is because
Empire.
the way you're looking, and nothing to do with the present
And
moment.
when
It's
I
the
read
way you
that,
attend
just
to it.
many bells
So by having
rang
caring
that said this is
attention
what
to
would
the
happen.
present moment, the
If
caring
you start
part of
indulging
it makes
in
it
the
easier
senses,
to look at because the
after a
present
while the
moment
ordinary
becomes
pleasures
nicer,
don't mean
more
very much
pleasant.
anymore. You have to have something more extreme.
When the present moment becomes the
and more
pleasant
extreme
moment,
after that.
it means that it's easy to
talking
watch.
to one or
you
two
don't
monks.
tend to have
It's
to
really
go off
amazing
into the
in this
past and the
monastery
future
that
and
when
get
we have
restless
toast in the morning,
because
just
you're
how
having a good time
exciting
being
that
out.
is. And you tell
Same
that
with
to
the
people
silence,
outside.
You have care
What?
for
You
the
really get
silence
excited
of
because
the
you have
mind.
toast in the morning. We have that every day.
the emptiness.
You have
the
every
space
day. There's nothing to it.
between the words.
You can understand how sensory pleasures
beautiful.
work. After a while, you just get satiated.
And attend to
It doesn't mean anything anymore. You have to have something even more.
And stay there.
French toast or toast with
Now
chili
your
powder. I don't know
meditation
whatever
is
people have on
building.
it just to make it sound nice.
When it
or
starts
taste nice.
to build, you're getting somewhere.
But this is actually
feel
what was
good.
it? I remember this Japanese
feel,
restaurant.
wow, I really am a monk.
The people
Coming
getting
on this
so
retreat
satiated
as a layperson is
that
really
there's
worthwhile.
one restaurant where they have
And
this
see results.
bullfrog or something.
Even though I keep telling people
And
you're
it's
not
very,
supposed to
very
meditate
dangerous
for
to eat.
results. Of course, we all
But if you
want
don't do
results.
it
We want to see
exactly
something.
right, it's poisonous and people die.
So there's a nice result you can see.
And I think
if you want
every
a result, it
now
never
and again,
comes,
I think
but
about
if you do the
1 out of
right
20 people
things
actually
that
die from
put
eating
the
this
causes in
bullfrog.
place, caring attention.
But it's such a
results
delicacy
will come.
that people really try.
And
Imagine
that
you're
gives
having
you
a meal
positive
and you
reinforcement.
know you've got a 5%
This
chance of dying
meditation
after
works,
this meal.
and also you can
And that's
do it.
really attractive.
It
A lot of
feels
people
so
pay a lot of
great
money
and
for
so
that. They have to
wonderful.
sign a form saying if they do die, they're not going to sue the
And
restaurant.
that feeling of greatness,
exciting.
wonder, beauty,
That's what people do when they're
satisfaction, you're
satiated.
getting somewhere, start to
To
feel
take
good.
risks like that.
That just is.
You
has,
understand
again,
what's
another
actually
snowball
happening
effect. Because of caring attention, you can do these things. And if I can do present moment awareness and silence, I can do this breath. It does work.
Sort of allow
you
yourself
can
to
watch
die.
this breath and just sit there and just watch the breath going in and out for hours.
The rules of the monastery.
Well, maybe not hours. You usually get much
Sure, we
deeper
don't like
after a
doing
while.
those rules.
But you can watch it.
There'll always be grating against us.
Every in-breath, every out-breath.
I remember this one nun,
Because you know
the American nun who was at Wat Ba Pong, and she came and confessed
not so
to
much
me
willpower.
So what did you
There's
do,
the
which was very wrong?
mindfulness, the care.
She said, whenever I wanted a drink of water,
she's an American nun, so you can
you
understand
care
why
for
she
the
was
breath.
doing this. Whenever I wanted a drink of water, I
Really
deliberately
just have
stand
kindness
up and
towards
drink
it.
And kindness
In my
towards
heart.
yourself.
No one could see me, but I was
And
standing
the mindfulness as well.
It was a rebellion. Because in Thailand, when you're drinking, you've got to squat down to have a drink.
If you're angry towards the breath, you tense
and
up.
a stupid thing.
What are you doing that
tense.
for?
No one was seeing
Everybody
you,
knows that the breath,
she thought she had to do
its
something
quality
to be herself.
is a good reflection of the way your mind is.
And sometimes that's a stupidity of breaking rules.
If you're angry, the
just
breath
because
is
of
very
their sense of
shallow
self.
and fast. Whatever it
They
is,
have to do that.
Sometimes if people see a girl they like, they can hardly breathe.
They just resist being just
see
like
just how
everybody
your
else.
emotions of lust, ill will, or
ego,
whatever, really do affect
sense
your
of self.
breathing.
But the rules of
obviously
discipline
well
are
known.
there.
But
to wear
when you're
down
kind to the breath,
that ego,
wear down
you get
that
the
kind
sense of
breath.
self.
It's so nice to
until
watch.
you start to disappear. You
So
fade
when you have
into
caring
the background. You're just a
attention to
monk.
your breath,
A good monk. Just one
it
in
makes
the
the
line.
meditation so much easier.
It's one of the reasons why this is a very helpful monastery for
you
meditation.
smile at the
because
breath,
so many
breath
of you.
smiles back. It becomes
So you can disappear,
pleasant.
you can melt away.
Once you start to get
But
into
as
the
you
pleasant
disappear
breath,
and melt
you're
away
on your
because
way.
of the vinaya, because of the
breath
form,
becomes so nice. You just
you can
watch it
still
go in,
have your
watch it
own
go
inner
out.
world. Where you don't melt,
for those
where
of
you
you who've
exist,
heard me
where you
speak for
live,
such a long time,
where you make up a self.
sometimes you get really bored hearing the same
I
old
remember
things.
just
but now you
reading
can do
in
it, and it's
some of the Nidana Samyutta.
happening.
This is about
I can
dependent
do this
origination, how
meditation.
rebirth happens.
I'm a
I
meditator.
have something which is called
I earn my
the
rice, or your
stations of
potatoes, whatever you ate
consciousness,
this
the
morning.
Vijnana Titi.
This is what lay people expect of
And
me.
this is just
This is
because
what
of
I've
thinking.
ordained for. This is why
Because
I'm
of
a monk, to
fantasizing,
develop and
because
train
of
my
dreaming,
mind.
we
And
make
now I'm
these
getting some
worlds.
results. I'm getting
It's
peaceful
those
and
worlds
nice.
where
I
our
can meditate.
consciousness can find a
And
footing
the
in a
spectre
previous
of a
life.
long retreat doesn't fill you
We're
with dread
inclining
anymore, but fills you
to a
with
particular
wonderful
idea.
peace at last. It's like
The
being on a
place
holiday.
where our
May it
consciousness
really
and our
goes
sense of self
slowly. I'm enjoying
thinks it
this.
belongs.
And then
We
you're
actually
getting
create
somewhere.
our future lives that way.
When you have that sort of attitude, just the
That's why you've got to be
meditation
very
just
careful
builds and grows
with
and
dreaming,
blossoms.
fantasizing, and
You have the
planning.
most wonderful time of your
Because
life.
some of those fantasies will come true.
So that I always remember
actually
in those
stuck
early
there.
years.
Other
Sometimes
times
you
you
get,
think, oh,
once you
that'd be
get the
very
meditation going, it starts
Really?
getting hot. You have a wonderful time
Think
on these
about it.
retreats. It can't
There's
sort of
sometimes when
last long enough. It always finishes far
I
too
used to
quick.
have these dreams. I'd always say,
Sit there
what
and
next?
just watch this breath. It just develops.
Okay, and then this will happen. Then
The
what
more you
next?
just watch this
and
breath
then what
go in and
next?
go
and after
out,
a
just
while,
the more
just you
still
couldn't
and peaceful you
maintain the
become.
dream anymore.
Remember, that's the whole point of the meditation.
Because it's
Calming
all
and
dreams.
stilling the mind.
All fantasies.
Don't go looking for
They are
insights and all these
fun
stupid ideas
to a
of thinking
point.
and trying to understand things.
what
Understand
happens
stillness. That one thing.
that takes the gloss away.
And
from
see
the
how
dream and
much
fantasy.
stillness you can create in the mind
In your
or
dream
allow
lands,
to happen.
you can stop whenever you like.
Stillness, stillness, stillness,
In real
stillness.
life, you have to pay the consequences.
And how silent you can
That's
become.
the difference.
There are great thinkers in this world.
So that be
I
careful
always think they're stupid.
of your dreams.
And
your
they can
wants,
think, but they don't really
because
understand.
that can become a reality in a future
There's very
life.
few people who
There's
can get their
problem
mind
there.
still and peaceful.
So you become a station of
So you'd be
consciousness.
one of
You're
those
actually
few.
creating. You're using
The
fuel.
calm,
The way the mind is leaning
Mind.
now and inclining now.
which is so still
is
that hardly
fueling
anything is
A
happening.
future rebirth.
And don't be afraid of some of the
And that's
dullness which
scary
comes as a
when you
result of
understand what the
stillness.
Buddha meant by the
That
stations of
dullness soon
consciousness.
disappears.
And how they
And
are
stillness
created by the
becomes
craving and the
vibrant,
Upadana,
powerful,
the
and
fuel
just so full of energy.
to make them your
That
abidings in the
still
future.
energy.
So
that's the one
instead
to
of
go
doing
for.
that, we can disappear.
Absolutely unmoving.
So we have no
You've
abiding.
just got more
We don't
energy than a
create
nuclear reactor.
houses, abodes.
So that's
for
what
our
it's like
future
in the deep
existence.
meditations. And you just go there gradually.
From all of the six senses.
As the mind does
all
less,
the objects of the
has
six
more
senses.
energy.
We disengage from everything.
So it comes that time the mindfulness becomes
and we're disengaging from
powerful.
the objects of consciousness.
And with the power, it just
the origin
becomes
of
so
consciousness,
bright.
the sense
It is
of self
caring.
also
Naturally,
starts to fade.
Energy,
there's a feedback
brightness,
mechanism.
Happiness has a natural
as I let go of the stuff out there,
alongside
the stuff
of it.
out there lets go of me.
And that's when you really find it so easy to go deep into the meditation.
As a mirror image of the stuff
Beautiful
out there.
breath, having a wonderful time.
That's who yourself is.
So
Don't
gentle,
think
so
it's
kind.
independent
So
of the objects of consciousness.
So still.
Yourself is a mirror image.
You don't need to think
you let go
your
out
way
there,
through.
So the image inside
pivot
here
point means
of who you think
that
you
once
are
you're on that side of the
fades
mountain,
away.
It's all downhill. You don't need
That's
to
a
climb.
beautiful
You don't need to put
process
forth
to
effort.
observe.
Now, the more you let go,
It's fun,
the better it
fading
happens.
away. Take my word for it. If you don't take my word for it, take the Buddha's word for it. Take the Kupa Ajahns word for
the
it.
controller, the
more you
thinker,
fade,
the maker,
the more
is
fun
imperative.
it is.
Stage
The more
of either
free
full
you
awareness
are.
of the breath or beautiful breath. Try each and see what happens.
You test this out.
And you get deeper and deeper in your
You
meditation.
test it more and more in your monastic life.
And also,
you test
you
it
go
out
back
in your
into those
meditation.
books.
You test it out with your
You look what the
insight.
Buddha said.
Fading is
see
freedom.
You're doing it.
The more solid you are, the more you can get
it
hit
is in your
hurt.
experience, in your
the
mind.
more you bruise.
Then you become
the more
a real
vaporous
monk.
you are.
The
Things just pass through
doesn't
you.
just wear the outer
Pain,
robes.
disappointment,
The master
frustration.
really understands
They can't stick
what the
on
Buddha
you anymore.
taught and how the
You're
Buddha
not
lived.
solid enough.
Not how
the
he
sense
lived
of self,
by
ego,
keeping
identity
his rules and precepts,
is
but
vanishing.
how he lived
That's why
by
when
calming his
people
mind, his mental faculties,
criticize you,
become so still,
call
and
you
so
an
peaceful
idiot,
and so
say
beautiful.
you don't know what you're doing.
And that
you call
comes
yourself
out
a
in just
monk,
your
you're
health,
just a lazy good
your
for nothing, you
attitudes,
probably sleep too much.
In your life, you become
You
a
probably
happier,
just
more
think all the time
effective
when you're supposed to be meditating. You
being.
probably don't meditate at all, spend all your
all
time
the
reading
energy,
books.
all the wisdom, all
Whatever
the
it is, when
compassion,
people
all the
criticize you, why do
understanding
you even
experiences
bother
you get in this
getting
retreat.
upset?
Eventually you'll be able to share.
It's only because you have a
Maybe
solid
become a
sense
teacher,
of
or
self.
just
There's
by
someone
being who
inside
you
to
are
hit.
with your friends and companions in the
Therefore,
holy
the
life,
punch
or the lay people who
leaves a
support you.
bruise, leaves a mark.
It's well worthwhile
The
doing.
more you vanish, the more you
You'll
fade
be here
away.
for 3 months.
No one can punch
do
you
it
anymore.
properly. All these teachings
Like
that are here
trying
to help you.
Punch the air
The facilities are here
Just the air doesn't
to
bruise, it doesn't leave a
facilitate it,
mark.
to make it easy.
because you've vanished.
And so when you are meditating,
That's why they
try a
always
bit
used to
more of
have that as
the body awareness.
the acid
By
test
being
to see how a person
Compassionately mindful,
was gaining in
caring
their
attention
wisdom.
to your body.
Just swear at them,
It's a stepping
call them
stone.
an effing idiot, or
It's
whatever.
just being
Do
caringly
anything to
attentive
try and
to
upset
your
them, and to
mind,
see whether they would move.
to your breath, and then into
if they
deep
did,
meditations.
It was
So
they
that's the
hadn't
talk this
disappeared
evening
yet.
on body
They
awareness.
still had attachments. Upadana was still flowing both ways. The sense of self was still there. As you disappear more and more, the objects of senses disappear, you disappear. You can understand the importance of jhanas. The jhanas is 90% of the world. Maybe I'd call it more than that. 99% of the world has disappeared. And so has the knower. 99% of the knowers disappeared as well. And the mirror image, as the world outside disappears, the world inside disappears. And that should give you the clue to understanding the whole pathway of the jhanas. Just a great disappearing act of the citta, of the mind. As the more and more of the experience of vitaka vichara, of piti sukha, of upekkha, as these disappear, so does the knower disappear. And as the knower begins to disappear, even more is the infinity of space, infinity of consciousness. Infinity of consciousness I've translated recently. Instead of infinity, I think I called it almost like measureless. Understanding that infinity and zero are basically the same, even in maths. It means cannot be bounded. There's no measure anymore. Similar to the experience when the time disappears. In the present moment, infinity of time. Hopefully you've experienced that when you've been meditating. Time has no meaning. There's no measure to it. That only happens when there's no time in the present moment. Same with experiences in arupa states, in the immaterial attainments. The objects of the senses, the object of the mind is disappearing. Space is disappearing. And so is the one who knows it. Until space has no more meaning. Consciousness then disappears. And then the one who knows consciousness disappearing starts to fade. And then there's nothing left. And you know there's nothing left. That's the third arupa. And then even the one who knows disappears. And you know the one who's